What's going on, y'all? Today we got making the case for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, man. Let's get right into this one, man. If you want to see the last one,
basketball is special.
the
size of the court and the lack of pads or helmets give fans the most intimate experience of a team sport that exists. And because of the different styles that basketball allows for, players develop their own distinct identities and signature styles through their creativity, flair, and athleticism. And although no player succeeds alone, the scoring volume and two-way nature of the sport give individual stars a nearly unprecedented amount of control over the flow and outcome of a game. For this reason, players are constantly compared to their peers and to the legends of the past in order to answer the most hotly contested question in the sport. Who's the greatest to ever do it? For many, the question is redundant. They believe in only one right answer, their answer. Others might have their own personal stance, but acknowledge one or two alternatives. But I believe that there's much more nuance to the question of greatness and more answers to it than you might think. By my count, there are 8 players in NBA history that have a substantial claim as the GOAT. It's a subjective thing though. I can't give you a definitive answer. All I can do is make the argument. So today, I'll be making the case for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the greatest basketball player of all time.
Wow. Definitely could jab after this.
What's the case for Kareem? Well, what do you want the case to be? I mean that honestly. Everybody looks for something a little different when it comes to evaluating the greatest of all time. Are you the type of person who wants a player with enough rings for 2 hands and an overflowing trophy case? Do you look for guys with transcendent peaks who dominated their era? How about someone who could extend their career over a long period of time? Whatever it is that you want out of your GOAT, please direct your attention to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I usually like to get a little more creative than just he did this, then he did this, then he did this. But that's how I'm going to start the Kareem case because his legacy involves a lot of things that happened away from the hardwood, and this is the easiest way to go through them. So let's begin with our superhero's origin story. When it comes to our heroes, I think there are usually 2 types of beginnings that we love more than anything. The tale of the underdog who overcame the odds to become a household name, and the prodigy who is deemed the next chosen one and delivers on every ounce of promise. Kareem's story is of the second kind. In high school, Ferdinand Louis Alcindor Jr., Lou Alcindor, drew comparisons to Wilt Chamberlain. He torched the New York City high school basketball circuit and quickly became the most coveted basketball prospect in the nation. By the time he declared for college, Alcindor had lost just 6 games out of 102. His senior team was recognized as the greatest high school basketball team of the 20th century. You can imagine how ecstatic John Wooden must have been when he heard that Alcindor had declared to become a UCLA Bruin. As was the case back then, college freshmen were barred from competing on varsity teams. And so, at the beginning of the year, Alcindor and the freshmen scrimmaged against the varsity squad that had just repeated as national champions. Alcindor notched 31 points and 21 rebounds. The freshmen won by 15. On December 3rd, 1966, Alcindor began his collegiate basketball career in earnest. He scored 56 points in his first game, UCLA's single-game scoring record still to this day. On January 14th, just 12 games into the season, the Saturday Evening Post echoed a question asked 11 years prior about another of basketball's most revered figures. There was a genuine fear that Alcindor was too good, that the sport of basketball would suffer from a lack of compelling parity so long as he played it. The question was well-founded. By the end of the season, Alcindor had led the Bruins to an undefeated record, won the national championship, and claimed every relevant Player of the Year award that existed. The NCAA had already seen enough. Shortly after UCLA's championship win over Dayton in 1967, college basketball's governing body banned the dunk, a rule that would stand until 1976. While the NCAA gave various explanations as to why they chose to ban the dunk now, most observers knew that the rule was instituted with one person in mind. The rule became known as the Lou Alcindor rule. It took a teenage Lou Alcindor just 30 games to change the way that college basketball was played at a fundamental level for nearly a decade. Something else took place in the summer of 1967 that would shape Lou Alcindor's legacy just as much as the ban of the dunk. In June, many professional athletes of color met in Cleveland at Jim Brown's request in order to discuss whether they would support Muhammad Ali's refusal to be drafted into the Vietnam War. Of those who convened at the summit, 4 athletes sat at the foremost table. The NBA's elder statesman, Bill Russell, Ali himself, legendary former NFL running back Jim Brown, and Lou Alcindor. Here were the preeminent figures of their sports, legendary men who had all endured lives of hardship, and next to them sat a 20-year-old, an amateur in solidarity. Throughout his childhood in Upper Manhattan, Alcindor had experienced prejudice not just because of his height, but because of his race. An infamous incident involving his high school coach was just one instance that had strengthened Alcindor's resolve to become a civil rights advocate.
The use of the word was, you can't allow the idiots, I mean, there are idiots that ever can't allow those idiots sitting way up in the stands to look down and say you're playing like a nigger. There are very few things that I regret doing in my life. That's one of them.
Damn.
Not call me. I never said that, but the word did come up in the conversation. And
why you just say it just now, though? What's up?
At that summit, college basketball's brightest star signaled to the world that he was indeed more than an athlete. His virtuosity as an athlete was never in question, though, as Alcindor's junior season cemented him as the sport's most talented amateur. The team lost just one game en route to another championship and another Most Outstanding Player award for Alcindor. But Alcindor's second championship was greeted with little talk of what a fantastic talent he had proven to be, overshadowed by his attendance at a November meeting during which West Coast athletes met to discuss a potential Olympic boycott. The meeting included Tommy Smith and John Carlos, athletes who ultimately would participate in the Olympics and give us this iconic image. After the media got wind that this meeting had happened, Alcindor was interviewed, and his patriotism, loyalty, motivations, and influences were all brought into question and condemned. Alcindor was painted as a traitor, someone who was spitting in the face of the country that had done so much to improve his life. Never mind the fact that the same country still allowed landlords to racially segregate neighborhoods as a matter of law. He received death threats and hate mail full of racial epithets. These did nothing to deter him from his activism, participating in student protests and attending multiple civil rights rallies. But Alcindor, already a shy, reserved, and introspective person, developed a deep mistrust of the media. He worried that they only wanted to use him and his name for their own interests and agendas. He would carry that skepticism with him well into his professional career. For as talented as he was as an athlete, he refused to be defined by his fame. The scrutiny also did nothing to hinder his basketball mastery. Another year later, Alcindor found himself in possession of a third championship ring and another trove of accolades as college basketball's most outstanding player. In his 3 years as a varsity player for the Bruins, Alcindor won 3 national championships and was the National Player of the Year 3 times. In 90 collegiate games, he lost twice. He is the greatest college basketball player of all time, and to pretend otherwise is, to me, akin to denying the curve of the earth. In the 1969 NBA draft, the Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks, the worst teams in the league, flipped a coin to decide who would have the first pick. Here's a video of Phoenix's front office being told that they would be denied Lou Alcindor's basketball talents. With his 7'2" frame, Alcindor could use his size and stature against just about every center in the league, save for guys like Wilt and Nate Thurmond. He didn't have the mass of a guy like Shaq, so he played a game that was based on a surprising amount of finesse. Watching his younger years, you're struck by how fluid and maneuverable he was at his height, combined with a level of athleticism that has been lost to time. He boasted speed at his size and an incredible endurance, taking physical beatings nearly every night. He was a remarkable passer, even leading the 75 Bucks in total assists. His defense was prodigious, earning him 11 all-defensive selections in his career. He had a soft touch around the basket and held total command in the post, aided by his signature shot, the most unstoppable, impregnable shot in any player's arsenal ever: the skyhook. The ban of the dunk during his college career had yielded an unintended consequence. Alcindor was forced to hone his skills away from the rim, resulting in a shot that was nearly automatic. The shot was efficient, simple, effective, and has never been replicated. There's so much to talk about with Kareem, and I can't feasibly go through every year of his career and pick out all of the stats and accolades that show just how much ass he kicked, so we have to stick to the important stuff, like when he won his first MVP in his first championship, in his second year in the league. Alcindor and a just past his prime Oscar Robertson went toe-to-toe with Nate Thurmond, Jerry Lucas, Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Gus Johnson, Earl Monroe, and Wes Unseld, all Hall of Famers to win the title. In that entire postseason, against all of those Hall of Famers, the Bucks lost 2 games. Just 2 weeks after his 24th birthday, he won Finals MVP after slapping the Bullets with 27 points and 18 rebounds a game on 60% shooting in a 4-game sweep. Lou Alcindor became a champion before Jerry West did. The day following the championship, Lou Alcindor officially changed his name to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, having privately converted to Islam during his time at UCLA. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar proceeded to kick so much ass during the 1970s that I'm amazed he didn't break his feet. He was unassailably the league's best player from the moment he stepped onto the court in 1970 through to the very end of the decade. The gap between him and the league's second best player was as expansive as it's ever been for any player. In 10 seasons, from 1971 to 1980, Kareem won 6 Most Valuable Player awards, more than any other player has ever won. For the decade of the 70s, he averaged a 28, 14, and 4 with another 3.5 blocks and 1.2 steals a game on 55% shooting. Aside from his injury-shortened 75 season, he was an All-NBA selection every year and made 8 All-Defensive teams. The only thing missing from his decade-long stranglehold of the sport of basketball was more championships. He came close a couple of times, including a 7-game loss to the Celtics in '74. And guess why he didn't win more rings? You guessed it, he couldn't get a good team around him. But Kareem has a legitimate gripe here. After '72, Oscar's productivity dropped dramatically, and until Magic joined the Lakers in 1980, Kareem never played with an elite guard again. Remember how Kareem led the 75 Bucks in assists? That's a cool stat to throw out there, but it's indicative of the fact that the Bucks lacked playmakers, let alone somebody who could be the second best player on a championship-winning team. Kareem asked to be traded after the '75 season because, as you can imagine, this 7'2", introverted, black, activist Muslim who had grown up in New York City and gone to college in LA didn't exactly feel at home in 1975 Wisconsin. The team obliged in the offseason, sending Kareem to the Lakers in exchange for just about every good player the Lakers had. He had some more outstanding seasons for the Lakers, but again was never able to find a running mate that could help him get back to the top. Whatever, it doesn't change the fact that the conversation about who the best basketball player of the 70s was begins and ends with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I know that talking about a peak Kareem kinda seems weird because he's the guy with the goofy goggles and the bald spot and the funny mustache. But don't forget about the guy who could average 34 and 16 for a season and drag his team to 50-plus wins by himself. Don't forget about the guy who won 6 MVPs in 10 years. Don't forget about the guy who Dr. J, among other legends, calls the greatest of all time. So if Kareem kicked so much ass during the 70s, why don't we remember him the way we do with Dr. J? Well, you know how everybody talks about how Larry and Magic saved the NBA when they came into the league? Well, there were a lot of reasons the NBA needed saving. Drugs, the ABA split, tape delaying playoff games, a lack of dynasties, and honestly, because Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the league's best player. For one, watching Kareem was not fun. He was effective, he was dominant, but he wasn't exciting. He didn't have acrobatic dunks like Michael, show-stopping passes like Magic, or the thunderous power of Shaq. He had the skyhook, reliable and consistent, rarely thrilling, and never marketable. As far as his personality and ability to give the fans something to connect with, I read one word used to describe his attitude towards media and the public more than any other as I researched Kareem. Aloof. Not friendly or forthcoming. Cool and distant. Conspicuously uninvolved and uninterested, typically through distaste. Kareem, jaded from his interactions with the media in college and his encounters with racism, was a notoriously difficult person to interview. He just wasn't interested in being famous. He wasn't interested in being the face of the league. He wanted to be respected, not just as a basketball player, but as a person. Any attempt by fans or the press to get to know him or get something out of him was met with suspicion. Kareem let his celebrity die willingly, even intentionally. And because he was so incomparably good, nobody could supplant him as the best player in the world, and basketball's popularity suffered. Can basketball survive Lou Alcindor? It almost didn't.
Sheesh.
You knew this was coming. Kareem's longevity is the defining aspect of his career. He played for 20 years, and it wasn't really until his last year that he lost his fastball. In those 20 years, he was a 19-time All-Star, made the playoffs 18 times, and made 15 All-NBA teams. He appeared in 10 finals and won 6 championships. He was so good for so long that he won playoff series against Wilt Chamberlain and against Isaiah Thomas. That longevity gave way to a set of records at Kareem's retirement that are matched only by Wilt. And as you're looking at these, contemplating how a guy could stay competitive and relevant for 20 solid years, remember the era that Kareem played in, and the fact that he spent 4 years in college playing at a championship level. Of all of these records, get a load of these 3. We already talked about his 6 MVPs, but he received plenty of MVP votes throughout the 80s, even finishing 5th in 1986 at the age of 38. He finished with the most points of any player ever. The lethal efficiency of the skyhook made it easy for Kareem to keep up a steady scoring diet, even as he got on in years. So if you love scorers, and the first thing you do when people talk about the GOAT is bring up how many points they could get, here's your guy, the all-time scorer in NBA history. And there's this, the truest sign of his extended dominance. Winning Finals MVPs 14 years apart, one at age 23, the other at age 37. The gap between those 2 awards spans more time than the careers of Magic, Bird, Russell, or Jordan's. In 1985, the Lakers had won 62 games and were the top seed in their conference. The Kareem Magic balancing act had gotten about as close to an equilibrium as they would get to together, helping the Lakers tear through the playoffs all the way to the finals, where they met Larry Bird and the Boston Celtics. Now at this point, the Lakers had never beaten the Celtics in the finals ever. They were 0-8, going all the way back to when the Lakers played in Minneapolis. And after Game 1, it looked like the Celtics were going to make it 0-9. Boston won 148-114, a victory that became known as the Memorial Day Massacre. The most notable deficiency on the Lakers was their center. Held to just 12 points and 3 rebounds, Parrish and McHale had run Kareem ragged on the court, gobbling up rebounds, playing physically inside, and having their way with him. Kareem looked expired, the Lakers were embarrassed, and the future of their team was in jeopardy. Pat Riley says, if we hadn't won in 85, I would have probably gotten fired. Because we won in 82, lost in 83, choked in 84, and 85 was the last year of my contract. I had to win. And so in the off days between games 1 and 2, Riley hammers his team, none more than Kareem. And Kareem asks for more. In game 2,
this is again Rambis on the offensive board. Kareem.
We need those.
Kevin as much as they possibly
we need
can.
those.
Kareem steals the pass. Kareem.
My boy Magic was out.
Sky hook by double team. Dennis Johnson gets Worthy in the air. Kareem blocks it. On the boards for the Celtics. Kareem going in on a pass from Magic Johnson. 4 on the shot clock. Kareem goes up and stuffs it through with 2 seconds to go. Against Kupchak, blocked by Kareem. In the backcourt, Kareem is back in the game and hits the sky hook. Kareem.
Triple don't care. Triple team don't care. Blowing that mold right now. Another double. Don't care.
Going strong to the basket and 30 points for Kareem. Lakers are in the penalty. Michael Cooper is open again, and he hits again.
I'll tell you, he is playing like a rookie. Watch him come over on this shot to really swat it away. Fantastic.
After Game 1, Kareem averaged a 28, 10, and 6 at age 37 against the greatest front court in NBA history. The Lakers won in 6. Curse over. 14 years after his first championship, he was still good enough to be the best player on the best team against the best competition that the world had to offer. This is where I talk about all of the other stuff that doesn't fit neatly into other categories, or they're important but don't deserve a category of their own. First, let's talk about Magic and Kareem, because I feel like that's the elephant in the room right now. Every time someone starts talking about Kareem as the greatest ever, they point out that he has 6 championships, the magic number because it's just as many as Michael Jordan won. Then somebody comes back and says no, he won 5 of them with Magic, and he only has 2 finals MVPs, so Magic carried him to the other 4. And then that's usually where the conversation ends. But not today, baby. If I'm arguing for Kareem as the greatest player of all time, which I am, I'd point out that when the Lakers won the title in 1980, Kareem was the best player on the team, and I would argue that he had a more impressive final series than Magic did. We all remember 1980 as the finals where Magic put up 42 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists to clinch the title. It was, in many respects, the signaling of a new era of NBA basketball, what many people still call the sports golden age. And that's a neat narrative that previews Magic's rise to superstardom. But what? In the first 5 games of the series, Kareem, who would later be named the regular season's MVP, averaged 33 and 14 and blocked 23 shots. In Game 5, with the series tied at 2 apiece, Kareem sprained his ankle halfway through the third quarter. After being helped to the locker room, he hobbled back onto the court, unwilling to let this chance slip away. He proceeded to cap off a 40-point, 15-rebound performance by slamming through the game-winning dunk with just over 30 seconds left. Magic was fantastic throughout the series, and obviously had the big game to win it all, but Kareem was the one who put them in position to win the series in the first place. So why didn't he win it? Gee, I don't know. Who do you think the media wanted to give the award to more? The sullen, quiet center who had just spent the last decade giving them the finger every time they asked a question? Or the charismatic, flashy rookie with the ear-to-ear smile who clinched the series on the road? In '82, Magic started putting up eye-popping stats on the offensive end and had an outstanding final series, but he had yet to take the torch from Kareem. Following an argument with then head coach Paul Westphal, Magic had asked for a trade earlier that season. Lakers owner Jerry Buss instead fired Westphal and replaced him with Pat Riley. Magic's reputation in the locker room and in the public eye suffered. Plus, Norm Nixon was still playing long stretches of games at point guard, leaving Magic without a definitive claim as the team's alpha dog. We already talked about the 1985 series, and then in 1987 and '88, yeah, Magic was easily the best player on the team. And the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, that was 39 and 40 respectively, was either the second or third best player on those championship teams. Doesn't it count for something that he was still a go-to guy for championship teams as he was pushing 40? Alright, maybe this one can be like a little mini section. Ready? Whenever we think of guys who were clutch, we always think of perimeter guys. Reggie, Ray, Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, Durant, Bird, and so on. So, does that mean there's no such thing as a clutch center? Heck no, you dum-dum. If you need 2 points in crunch time, what would you trust more than the most awesome weapon of basketball certainty ever created? Plus, if you're afraid that Kareem might get fouled and miss the free throws, he was a 72% shooter from the line during his career and topped out around 78%. He wasn't a sure bet, but in big-time situations, Kareem had a knack for him. Is it really crazy to think of Kareem as being clutch? Here, I'll show you. 1979, Magic's first NBA game. The Lakers trailed the Clippers by 1 at the end of regulation.
Sends it to Kareem. Skyhook up and good. Lakers win.
Yeah.
Score it. Kareem
That was different.
has given the Los
That was different. But a
1987 NBA Finals, Game 4. The sequence is most memorable because of Magic's baby skyhook, but in 2 must-score situations, the Lakers put the ball in Kareem's hand. First, they threw an alley-oop to Kareem, and then, on the next play, down 1, Kareem was able to draw the foul. 1988 NBA Finals, Game 6. The famous Isaiah Thomas game. After spraining his ankle in the third quarter, Isaiah stayed in the game and heroically capped off a 25-point quarter, an NBA Finals record. Needing to win the game to stay alive and force a Game 7, Kareem spoiled the Pistons' parade with 27 seconds left. As the Lakers gave their 41-year-old center the ball, he drew a foul.
The old man goes up and misses the shot, but goes to the line with 14 seconds to go.
Made both free throws, and the Lakers won the game. 1974 NBA Finals, Game 6 against the Celtics. Down 3-2, the game is in double overtime, and the Bucks are down 1 with 7 seconds left. Their season hangs on the next possession. Who else would they go to?
7 seconds. Finkel, the sky. Kareem with a big pressure shot. Nothing but net again.
Boom. A clutch center. The NBA has seen its fair share of media-savvy athletes like Magic and LeBron and Michael. There has never been, and there will never be, a 10-hour documentary on Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Michael Jordan was an infinitely more entertaining player to watch and a more interesting person for the media to interview. But does the fact that Michael Jordan was more exciting or popular mean that he was a better player? Not necessarily. Think of it this way. If you needed to cut an apple, and you saw a guy with a samurai sword throw the apple in the air, do some crazy slashes at the speed of light, and saw the apple come down cut into pieces, you'd be impressed, right? You'd take a picture of it, you'd remember it, you'd probably tell your friends about it. But is that guy and his samurai sword any better at slicing an apple than one of those steel things you keep in your kitchen drawer at home? I mean, is it exciting? Not really. Are you gonna tell your friends about it? Probably not. But when it comes to cutting apples, doesn't it get the job done just as well? He was clutch, had the most unstoppable move in NBA history, won 6 championships, 6 MVPs, had 20 years of excellence, and a peak that ranks among the highest ever. Oh, and he's also the most accomplished college basketball player ever. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar enjoyed the greatest career of any player. He succeeded at every level of the sport, to a greater degree than anyone else, and with a level of attention and scrutiny that has few equals in American basketball history. He's the greatest of all time. Just pick a case. Hey there, sports fans. Thank you very much.
That's the end of this one, y'all. Let me know how y'all feel about this one, y'all. Let me know if you got Kareem. I know most of y'all got Michael Jordan as the GOAT. Let me know where y'all got Kareem on y'all all-time list. Then if y'all got Michael Jordan as the GOAT. If you do have Kareem as the GOAT, let me know why you have him over Michael Jordan in the comments. If you enjoyed, share the video, turn on post notifications, subscribe. Make sure you click on the last reaction right here. It's good for your health, man. And I'm out of here.